Welcome to episode 1 of The Clubhouse, a new quarterly magazine programme from England Rugby, bringing you up to speed on what's happening behind the scenes in support of the community game. And during the programme, we'll be providing information to help your rugby communities, and we'll be meeting volunteers from across the country to hear their stories. A big thanks to Aylesbury RFC here in Buckinghamshire for hosting us today. In a moment, we'll meet some of their club reps to find out more about the club. But for now, let's tell you what's coming up on today's show. This first episode is all about participation. We'll explore more around the challenges in the men's game this season, and we'll look at the exciting growth potential for the women and girls game, including how clubs can use the Rugby World Cup 2021 to attract new players. A bulletin board at the end of the show will cover other key areas that could help you, from social media tips to tackling energy costs. So here we are inside Aylesbury's fantastic clubhouse, and to kick off the new programme, I'm joined by Steve Granger, RFU Director of Rugby Development. He heads up all things community rugby at the RFU. And welcome, Steve. If you could just firstly give us a status update on where the game's at.
Yeah, a few months now into the community game season. It was a tough start with a lot of unplayable pitches, but it's been great to see lots of rugby being played again in our clubs. We've got a great month coming up with the culmination of the Red Roses in the World Cup down in New Zealand, 4 autumn internationals at Twickenham, all of which should give some great inspiration, hopefully, to the community game. The impact of the pandemic is still being felt. It feels like the age grade game has rebooted well. It feels like the women's game is continuing to grow, but clearly still work to do there. And a big challenge, obviously, is what's now a clear decline in participation in the adult men's game.
And tell us then what the RFU is doing to try to help get more players on pitches this season.
So in the women's game, the focus is very much about recruitment and trying to bring more women in and boost those numbers. In the adult men's game, it's very much about return and retention. So trying to bring players back that haven't come back and making sure that we hold on to the ones that are there. And our big focus really is around a campaign, play together, stay together. So emphasising again the camaraderie and the friendship that rugby has both on and off the pitch, and reminding all players of that, and hopefully getting them back down to rugby clubs.
And we know that clubs already have a lot of activity planned around play together, stay together. How can more clubs find out about what clubs are doing, and how can clubs tell us what they're doing, particularly around the Autumn Nation series? Well,
first of all, it's been great to hear and to see some of the inspirational stuff that the clubs are already doing. And we'd encourage other clubs really to model that and copy that and better that. And the best place to go for that is to the Grassroots social media Facebook group, where there are already over 500 clubs in membership of that group. And we're encouraging all clubs to put their content on there and tell us what they're doing, and indeed to win the chance of an England Rugby treatment, a full England Rugby treatment at one of their home matches. There's some great content already on there, including, of course, a Mike Tyndall versus James Haskell invitational match here at Aylesbury.
And if you want to watch that match back, it is available on England Rugby's YouTube channel. And if you want to find out more about Play Together, Stay Together, there's a dedicated webpage on englandrugby.com. And of course, you can always just search social media under the hashtag Play Together, Stay Together. But also, Steve, actually, there's another initiative as well that we should talk about, which is Game On, to get the match completion rates up. Tell us a bit about that and why it was brought in.
Well, the clue's in the name, really. It's all about getting the game on and getting the game played. And it's a series of really simple measures that says, if you can't field 15 players, or if your players aren't comfortable playing the full laws, here's some adaptations, and here's how you can play with less players. And it's all about whether we've got 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 players playing with full or adapted laws. Getting the game played is the most important thing.
And this season there are new Game On options as well. They've been brought in just to appeal to front rowers in particular. But we know when it comes to the front row, you need an expert. So we've called in David Flatman to give us the lowdown.
It's match day, and there's no better feeling than putting on the old boots, sucking some of that deep heat smell down into your lungs and getting out on the pitch with your mates. But some weekends, you might be a few short of the full 15. But with Game On, that doesn't mean you have to cancel your match. You can still play a proper game of rugby because every game matters. Depending on the players you've got, there's a flexible range of options around the scrum, the line out, the duration of the match itself, even the size of the pitch. So you can still complete fixtures competitively.
Here's how you can get your game on. Play with 10 to 15 players a side, with rolling subs to make sure everybody gets plenty of action.
And if you've not got the full 80 minutes in you, the games can be as short as 40 minutes. And if you need to, you can even make the pitch a little bit smaller, like this. Or even smaller. Bring it in a bit, please. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. And just show off, is there? We all love a scrum, and Game On lets you adapt it to suit the players you've got. You can reduce the numbers and still maintain a full contest, or have a maximum 1.5 metre push. No props? No problem. Go uncontested so everyone still gets a game. These options can be a great way to introduce players making a transition to the front row in senior rugby. You can also adapt the line out by agreeing not to lift or even going uncontested. This bit's important, guys. You have to agree these changes with the opposition and let the ref know at least half an hour, that's 30 minutes, at least half an hour before kick-off. But above all, make sure you give everyone a fair and enjoyable game of rugby. Do you like this sort of game on option where just because there aren't 15 on each side, you get the game done anyway?
Yeah, I think so. It tests the skills. I mean, I got to throw some long passes. There was a bit more space out there. But for me, it was lovely because you still got the scrums, you still got the line-outs, but actually as a game, it's brilliant.
What did you make of the 1.5 metre rule in the scrum there?
I think for our level, the fitness we are is absolutely perfect.
You like the 1.5 metre rule? That's a handy rule.
Yeah, it's a handy option especially if they're not an experienced front row, or if one could really dominate the other.
You can still get the game done, so that works, right?
Exactly, yeah. No, and we've had, I think, one game sort of in the league this season where we played a half with uncontested scrum. So it's just, it doesn't detract from the game, and it sort of means you can play rugby, whereas before you wouldn't be able to. So I think it's a really good thing.
But you'd rather play 12 aside than no game at all, right?
Oh, definitely. No point in just turning up and turning around.
Getting your game on when you haven't got a full 15 keeps players coming back week after week. 10 on 10 one week, 11 on 11 the next, you'll soon be back up to 15 aside. Any game is better than no game. We all just want to play. And if you're anything like me, you want to enjoy the social side of things afterwards too. So get out there and get your game on, because every game matters.
And our newest guest to the Clubhouse is Aylesbury Chairman Paul Millen. Paul, thank you so much again for hosting us here today.
No problem.
And tell us a bit more about the club. We've just seen some of your guys in that feature with flats. Tell us more about Aylesbury RFC.
So we're an amateur community rugby club with our men's team sitting at Regional 2, our women playing NC3. We have 2, sometimes 3 men's teams we can get out, a full women's team and a full complement of age grade rugby. From Colts down to tag under 7s, under 6s, on both boys and girls.
And how are playing numbers here at Aylesbury since coming back from COVID?
Yeah, we're in pretty good shape. We're in a better place than we were pre-COVID, pretty much across the board. We did lose a number of the senior players who would typically be our first team players. They found other things to do on a Saturday afternoon when they couldn't play rugby, and decided that was what they were going to stay doing. Interestingly, that meant that we've had to then feed up from our Colts and build the team back up that way. So we're actually back in pretty good shape now.
Well, let's take a closer look at what you've been doing here just to keep players involved, and also at what you've been doing to maximise facilities.
Local round robin started as a concept that we'd had for a few years. We just reached out to a number of local clubs, said would they be interested in coming to a round robin local tournament. We're coming out of COVID, lots of people were feeling disenfranchised with everything, and by being able to come to a club, it meant that they could be around their mates, they could break new friendship groups, especially with the use of the gym here as well. They're able to come along and make new friends.
The round robin event's been brilliant, really effective, especially after the last few years. Just playing rugby again was lovely. Travelling, playing teams that we wouldn't normally play in a league situation. So it's a different game, as it what it is in a league game. But yeah, it's massive.
The facilities here, I think, are some of the best in the country. We've got a fantastic pitch, the 4G pitch. We've got 3 really good quality grass pitches as well. We've got a state-of-the-art gym that we can use as part of our membership, as well as all the new training facilities and the changing rooms. And then we've also got a new bar being built, which has got a cracking balcony and a really great view over the first team pitch.
Every penny we raise at the club from functions or membership goes straight back into rugby. And a good example of how we invest in the facility is behind us with the members bar extension we've done, which allows us on a Saturday when we've got games on, not to compromise the players' experience downstairs. We can now do everything post-rugby upstairs. We're very strict here. We don't pay any players, so it's very important that we invest back into make the facility as good as it can be for the players to attract them here and for the membership more widely. During COVID, the winter survival loan came around via the RFU. That gave clubs an opportunity to borrow at really reasonable rates with a delayed repayment holiday to allow you to invest in your facility to make it as good as it could be to get people back playing rugby. So this is our gym facility that we built just before COVID kicked in, and this gym is a game changer. So they'll be in here personally, they'll be in here as groups. It's a pretty well used gym. So we borrowed from the bank to fund the gym, and that's why the winter survival loan was so good for us, because it meant that we could start on the members bar extension now, and the repayments don't start for another 4 years, so we can get this paid off and then move on to finishing that one off. So as part of the gym development, we came in under budget on it, so we had some money available to then start the development up here. This allowed us to build the classrooms that you see here now, which we can use as meeting rooms, or during the week they're used by James Buckland's Next Phase Academy. We do as much as we can with the whole facility, so if you come during the day, there's a motorcycle training school out in the car park. We've got containers which we hire out. Inside the clubhouse we'll have conferences, meetings, all kinds of stuff goes on in the main hall during the week. So we get as much going at the club as we can at all times really. We're really pleased with the facility, and we feel the investment we've made will allow us to attract larger membership, more activity, and make us sustainable for the long-term future.
And Steve, just looking at that VT, how important is it for clubs to be thinking about diversifying revenue streams?
It's absolutely crucial, and it was brilliant to see some of the great examples on that on the video there. As clubs develop and as they grow and as they want to improve their facilities, clearly rugby and the playing of rugby is always going to be at the core. But in order to facilitate that going forward and to fund that going forward, I think we can only ever see a situation where clubs are bringing other sports, other groups, other users into them and helping the revenue streams grow.
And what about the round robin approach as well?
Yeah, it was fantastic to see that, and I'd really like to ask to Paul, really, how's that all going and how did it come about?
It's great. It's just where we found that some weeks we weren't able to get a third team out, and a lot of the local clubs were in the same position, but they had a handful of players with nothing to do, and what you want to do is keep those boys playing rugby. So you get them in one place and do whatever you can, game on principles, just to get the game going.
Absolutely superb.
And another area, just thinking about getting players on pitches this season, there's been a number of changes to the league structure and also the new Papa John's Community Cup. So tell us a bit more about that and what the changes are.
Yeah, it's the first major changes to the league structure in 30 years, and this has all been driven by player feedback over the last few years, where players have clearly said that they want to be playing more localised games, they want to play less league matches, and they want a more varied diet of rugby. And of course the league structure has to also bear in mind club sustainability and the importance of club matches to individual clubs and to their revenue streams. But an important part of that varied diet then is the introduction of a new cup competition, which will take place at the end of the season. It'll be absolutely optional for clubs to enter. They'll be able to make a decision during the season whether they're up for it, and it'll take place at 5 different levels, and clubs getting the opportunity to play multiple matches.
And the entry period for clubs will be the first week of November through to the 1st of December, and it's just been announced as well that Twickenham will host the finals for some of the men's and the women's competitions. So Paul, tempted? Will you be entering?
We are, yeah. We're just going to monitor the player numbers over the rest of the next part of the season, but we very much hope to be involved in that, yeah.
Thought of running out at Twickenham though, that's some carrot.
Who wouldn't want to do that?
And Steve, I mean, what a statement. First we've got Papa John's coming on board as a sponsor, and then of course Twickenham now hosting some of those finals, and that's on the 30th of April and the 1st of May. How do clubs enter?
Yeah, well, firstly, can't wait to see some of the action, both at clubs and indeed at the finals at Twickenham. Clubs really just need to look out for the email that will be coming out in the first part of November, and there's also a dedicated page on the cup competitions at englandrugby.com.
Perfect. And it sounds like even Eddie Jones is quite keen on this competition. What do you reckon, Eddie?
So imagine playing at Twickenham. You can play at Twickenham if you sign up for the Papa John's Community Cup. It's an opportunity for you to put your team in there and play at Twickenham. So get your pens ready.
And it's not just in the 15s game where recruitment and retention are a hot topic. We're now joined by Granville Williams, so on secretary, Bicester Rugby Club, referee for Oxfordshire, and you're the representative of the non-contact to Bicester, is that right?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Busy man.
I try to be, yeah.
So tell us about the non-contact offer at Bicester. How many numbers have you got playing?
Through the winter, as we are now, a bit contracted, but we could still put out an 8-a-side game every Monday evening and have an hour of that, and then a social drink afterwards. Mixed touch rugby, skills being shown by past rugby players, new people turning up, getting used to the ball handling and step in and just playing for the joy. So we've managed to keep it through the winter, and then we get more numbers in the summer when we're able to go out onto the fields.
And how have you found that the touch union compares to the previous version of touch?
It's that greater similarity to the rugby union game, that the two touches causing people to go forward, pressurise for possession and for ground, making people work to stay in support, making people work in defence. So it's good fitness level as well as sort of thinking as well.
So how do you use the non-contact predominantly? Is it to introduce new players to the game just for, like you're saying, the fitness, the fun, or is it more as an opportunity to develop and go into the 15s? It
started off as a summer pastime for the current crop of players when the season was finished, but actually it then grew into participants from outside of the normal rugby circle, mixed, bringing it down to under 14s. So actually it's just for the fun, for the social, and if people then feel, do you know what, I want to do a little bit more, then they can join the club. And I've also used it as well as a format to take into school outreach, to give them a bit of taste of that feel for rugby, run support, gameplay, and if they're interested further, come and join the rugby club. That's such an easy way, isn't it, to pick up rugby? Yeah, it's absolutely spot on. Everybody needs to be able to pass the ball, run with the ball in hand, make a decision and step. It doesn't have to involve the contact side of the game. I know you've played contact for many years, but why is it that you're now such an advocate, not just for the touch union, but also for walking rugby? It's the joy. It's the joy. Obviously retired, semi-retired from playing to then go into refereeing, and I love refereeing and being involved in the game from that centre and helping to guide a really good contest. But everybody truly still wants to be a player, whether their body can handle it or not. So being able to play, a quick game of touch rugby, absolutely brilliant, brings the joy back. Just on walking rugby, I saw you, I think, making your debut recently. Maybe it wasn't your debut, but I saw you playing. It was, yeah, it was. Tell people who haven't taken part in walking rugby what it's like and why it's so much fun to play. No, it was an absolute revelation to me. I'd recently watched a walk-in football club and saw the joy and the happiness and the throng from that. I thought, well, we should try that. And then lo and behold, I had the opportunity to try it out at the Game Congress and absolutely loved it. I could see in the eyes of everybody that as soon as that whistle went, that they went straight into rugby player mode and they wanted to compete for that ball and they wanted to score those tries. And it was the same as playing touch rugby, but just dialing back the speed slightly, so long as you can stop the odd person that breaks into a run. So just as competitive, same in any format of rugby. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Granville. Really appreciate your time, and good luck for the rest of the season with Bicester. And of course, if you want any more information about the Touch Union, or also just to organise your free equipment pack for any clubs that are going to run the non-contact offer, just contact the Touch Union at rfu.com. Well, let's move on now to another area of the game which has enjoyed tremendous growth over the last few seasons, and the Red Roses continuing to inspire a new generation of players. Hopefully by now you'll have already seen their brilliant documentary which aired just before the World Cup. It's called Wear the Rose, an England Rugby Dream.
We are the #1 team in the world. Every time we take the field, we want to be better. We set high standards for a reason because we know we can achieve them.
We all want to bring that trophy home.
For women's sport, it will be massive if we can achieve that.
We can show young girls rugby.
In a few years, could be you training.
Yeah. We've got to go to depths that we've never been to before.
We are the Red Roses. We are as one.
Well, if you haven't seen it already, or maybe you just want to watch it back again, that documentary is still available on ITV Hub. And we're now joined by Alex Teasdale, head of the women's game at the RFU. Alex, what was your favourite bit about that documentary?
I mean, it's really hard to pick one favourite piece, isn't it? I think the bit that kept me gripped between the first and the second episode was just being really intrigued to understand more around the women's lives. They are all amazing. Obviously they're professional athletes, but just to be able to get that insight into what their life looks like outside of that environment also, I think, was just really inspiring. And the Red Roses have had us glued to our TV sets, haven't they, despite the early alarm calls, but it's been worth it to see them in action. How would you say to the rest of the game, how can you capitalise as a whole on that increased profile and what England have been doing in the World Cup? Yeah, I think it was one of the things going into this tournament I think we're all a bit unsure of. The time zone is so different, you know, trying to work out how we were really going to, and clubs were really going to kind of get on the back of this, and people have been getting up very early, which has been amazing. There's been some brilliant watch parties at clubs across the country, you know, bars in London, etc. I know, you know, clubs such as Yeovil and Drybrook have put those watch parties on, and hopefully will continue to do so. So I think that's a really great way to kind of get the community engaged. I think ultimately also we want the ball to get into people's hands, and so again clubs have been doing a brilliant job of putting on things like the Allianz Inner Warrior camps, where people can have a go at rugby for the first time, or they get to have another go, you know, at rugby this autumn. And I think it's also really important that we use this profile and we think about what's going to come next. So thinking of, you know, to next year's Six Nations and the season we've got ahead of us, and CBs are doing great things to put on CB festivals for girls, both pre and post Christmas. So lots of great stuff going on. And obviously coming off the back of an exciting World Cup, it's a great time to attract new players to the game. If a club hasn't yet set up a women and girls section, what would you say, what's the best way to go about it? Yeah, really good question. I think there are lots of clubs, particularly over the last couple of years, that have really started to look at how they invest some time in growing their women and girls sections, and there's probably a few different things in here. Just being really mindful of the environment. So if you're walking into a clubhouse for the first time as a woman or a girl, feedback on how it feels, and if you're not a woman or a girl, then find somebody who is to kind of get that feedback. Just think about what the clubhouse feels like and the facilities there. I think the second part is just really making sure that you're focused on the partnerships you've got in a local area. So schools, colleges, you know, universities, other clubs. That critical player mass is really coming. The numbers are ramping up, but working together will obviously be hugely beneficial. I think the last part here is just the formats of the game. So we've mentioned Allianz Inner Warrior camps, which are brilliant, give women and girls that first go at feeling what contact rugby feels like in a really safe environment. We also have the touch union, which is a non-contact version of the game, and a number of other versions as well, which clubs can use. And it's not just playing numbers, is it? It's also thinking about volunteers, match officials, coaches. Yeah, 100%. It's a whole ecosystem and how it all works together. There are some really great resources on the Keep Your Boots On page of englandrugby.com, which help to look at how you can recruit and retain coaches, match officials and volunteers. They can come from within the game, but there's also some really great examples of people that have, you know, just been inspired by sport and women's sport and want to come and help. So it's definitely worth reaching out to broader groups as well. And there's also been some changes this season to the girls' age bands and also the under-16 girls England Rugby Developing Player Programme. Can you tell us a bit more about that and what the rationale is? Yeah, sure. So we'll take those two separately. So the age band piece has been really, really important. It's been great to be able to change the age bands from those kind of odd year age bands and a 3-year gap at under 18. We've now got enough player density to make those even year age bands, and it's 2 years at the under 18 window, which is really important. And the game will continue to grow, and those groups will become denser in clubs as we move forwards. The under 12 age band, really, really important. We've got loads of girls, clubs doing a great job of getting girls under 11 playing rugby. This will be really critically important in transitioning them into that under 12 age band and into girls rugby. From a developing player programme point of view, that, yes, is obviously there to develop players, but also coaches as well. It's something that's existed obviously in the boys game for quite a long time. We're not saying that the women and girls game has to copy the men and boys game. It just needs parity of experience, and I think what this new DPP programme for girls will do is give them that parity of experience as they move forward through their pathway journey.
So we've heard a lot about the game at a national level. Now we're delighted to have Sarah Stevens joining us from Aylesbury. Can you tell us a bit about the women and girls section here at the club?
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to. The women and girls section has really grown over the last few years. With the introduction of the under-12s, we've now got 4 age groups in the girls section, and then the senior women's team was started here 4 seasons ago. So we were interrupted by COVID, but we've bounced back fantastically since then. There are 21 players running out this Sunday, which is, I think, a record for us. With a few that aren't available. So the section across the whole club is growing sort of year on year.
And how did you start personally? Was it minis and juniors or was it more recently?
No, I started when I was 39 at the beginning of the women's team 4 years ago. So my son started at under 6s, and he's just been mad about rugby his whole life. I was a bit less keen as a mom to begin with. It was a bit cold and a lot of standing around. But as he got older and sort of better and better, I got into watching rugby. And then when they said here there was going to be a ladies team, I was just thought, I'm there. I want to give it a go. And now I've been playing for 4 years, and my son's actually graduated to the senior men's first 15. So we are a mum and son senior first 15 players for the club combination, which I think is probably quite unusual.
Fantastic. That must be a first, isn't it, here?
I think so. I think definitely here. And in fact, I was chatting to some of the guys from county, and they were like, we've never heard of that even in the county setup. So yeah, really interesting.
And what have you found are the most successful ways of welcoming new players to the club?
So the Allianz Inner Warrior camps have been really successful. We've gained quite a few new players through that. We've also had sort of word of mouth, so where people have been able to bring a friend, a next door neighbour or a cousin or somebody. And then the social media, that's been really good. The club has a large sort of following on social media because of the number of members here. It gets spread far and wide. So we've had sort of lots of different ways of doing it. And then obviously it's been brilliant to see the girls come up through the ages and then join us in the senior ladies team, and they've brought a sort of fun and fresh approach as well, and they've really appreciated the sort of the environment that we've built in the ladies team, where we're really supportive of each other and sort of really supportive of them, and we've learnt loads from them because, you know, frankly some of them are better players than we are because they've been playing for so much longer. So together it's been a great sort of group. I don't really want to give up. I love it.
And we've been talking about the World Cup. Have you got anything in mind specifically around using that as a hook to welcome more players?
Yeah, so towards the end of the tournament we've got a home game, so we're hoping that we can have a sort of breakfast party, watch the game, get a bit of a buzz around that, and then people stay for our game afterwards, so we can encourage more members of the club to come and support the women's section as well.
And Alex, obviously we've been focusing on this World Cup, but we're also going to be hosting the 2025 World Cup here in England. What opportunities are there to accelerate the growth of the game in that area?
Yeah, I think aren't we in a unique position? We're watching a 2021 World Cup in 2022, and we've won the right to host a World Cup in 2025. There's an awful lot to be talking about and to be excited about. I think in terms of those opportunities, most people will be aware we have a strategy around the women and girls game called Every Rose. We launched that a couple of years ago, and it takes us through to 2027. And a really key part of that strategy was winning the right to host 2025. So we can unlock the legacy that will sit behind this tournament. We'll build that in the lead in and the lead out. So I think those opportunities are all there within that document and that strategy. It sounds a little dry, but clubs, CBs are living it, the game is living it and breathing it as we're kind of moving on at the moment.
So participation has been our focus so far, but now it's time for a quick roundup of other key areas in the game.
Referees are often the unsung heroes of the game. There are 37 referee societies across the country. Whether you're an experienced referee or a young match official just starting out, get in touch with your local society. There's always a warm welcome. Thank you to Grasshoppers RFC for hosting the England Training Squad announcement last month, where Eddie Jones also shared tips with Green School for Boys and Grasshoppers Juniors. Please make sure your coaches and players are using the Active Injury Prevention Exercise Programme. Also, that your rugby communities are fully aware of Headcase, the RFU's Concussion Awareness and Education Programme. All coaches involved in the game should complete the Headcase module. If in doubt, sit them out. Remember that alongside our usual support, the online Community Rugby Help Portal houses a huge range of resources to help club volunteers in their roles. A topic on all our minds at the moment is energy efficiency. You can find some help on that on the RFU Club Support YouTube page. Over 60 hints and tips for energy efficiency measures are available on England Rugby's Running Your Club page. We've also spoken to our RFU coach developers to see how clubs can structure training to reduce floodlight use without sacrificing performance.
One of the most important things with sessions is that they have a clear purpose. Laying out equipment and training areas in advance is a real benefit to keeping sessions flowing. Think about players that arrive early and use this to develop personal skills and social connection. The use of Activate is really important throughout our sessions to help reduce the risk of injury. More details of this can be found on the England Rugby YouTube channel. Base the session around the FIT principles. Frequency, how often are people doing the activity? Intensity, can you manage the intensity between low, medium and high, making sure that players are getting experience of all? Type, what type of activity you're doing. If it's contact, can you vary the contact between full contact and reduced contact, maybe shoulder on, touch, or the use of tackle shields and tackle cylinders? And time, the amount of time that players are active within the practice. Keeping the tempo high throughout the session is really important to help keep players engaged. The use of game zones and skill zones is a proven way of keeping players active, providing them with both development and challenge, and is a great way to utilise all coaches. Coaches should ensure that players transition between sessions quickly. Try to avoid unnecessary huddles and stoppages. Instead, coaches should be constantly on the move, observing from different angles, having micro conversations, and to support players to recognise feedback generated within the session. Every club will have to make their own decision, but often during the winter months, playing numbers start to drop. Have you considered training once per week? It's a great way of keeping players enthused and fresh for the weekend's matches, and it's a great way to reduce the costs of powering floodlights and maintaining the player surface. If you do take this approach, you may want to consider a slightly longer pre-match warm-up to include some team preparation.
1, 2, 3, family!
We're going to round off today's show with a bit of fun and a lot of style. It's time for Grassroots Buttes. We've teamed up with ITV and Premiership Rugby again this season to make sure the community game gets its slot to shine. Here are some of the game's most recent gems.
So, Leamington scrum, George Jacobs the number 9, controlled by Ali Whedon, involving Jacobs again. This is Sam Nunn, outside to centre, Harry Johnson, winger Connor Chamberlain adding some impetus, neatly avoiding the referee as well. Ed Gray keeps it alive. Ooh, that is lovely to Gareth Shuttleworth. And now James Dunn. Where's this taking us? Here's Louis Harvey, and he's taking us all the way to the line. What Leamington are all about. Magical. Here we are this weekend in lovely Harrogate, enjoying a North 1 match in the Women's Championship. Visitors Barnsley pushing hard, but Harrogate scrum half Pippa Curley seems to have it under control. Gets it away to Louise Dawson. 19th birthday last week, first season with the club, works in the hospitality business, an eye on joining the army and an eye for adventure here. That is fabulous stuff. Over the 10 metre, over halfway, everybody trailing in her wake, and Louise Dawson with one for the scrapbook, one for the family.
So remember to post your team's highlights on social media, tagging in @RFU, @Prem Rugby, and include the hashtag Grassroots Buttes, and you never know, your team could end up on national TV. So that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to our guests. And we look forward to seeing you again for the next episode of The Clubhouse, when we'll be going to Bolton Rugby Club. Bye for now.